Hurricane Maria devastated not only the people of the island of Puerto Rico, but its animal population as well. In an effort to assist, representatives from the Dakin Humane Society recently visited the island. I sat down with Dr. Sherri Therrien and Carmine DiCenso, the Executive Director of Dakin, to talk about their recent efforts to spay and neuter animals in Puerto Rico and the latest programs happening at Dakin.
I got to go to Puerto Rico last November. The Humane Society of the United States is helping to fund numerous trips over an 18-month period down in Puerto Rico to help with overpopulation. I went last November, and they perform a large number of surgeries during each of these trips. There's about 6 or 7 different locations going on over a week's time, where each of these locations is doing a large number of surgeries. Our location alone did about 3,000 surgeries just for that 1 week. And I think as of now, their goal was to hit 20,000 for the 18-month period, and they're already over that, I believe, and they still have 1 more trip to do.
So you spay and neutering animals. Tell us the importance of that, especially given the conditions after the hurricane.
Puerto Rico already had a large number of animals in their shelter, but that has even gotten worse since the hurricane. Unfortunately, because of the damage, a lot of people had to leave their homes, and they had to leave the animals behind because they didn't have a way of taking them. So a lot of animals were left behind and allowed to breed, so the numbers going into the shelters were even greater. But because of the large number of animals that were running around, we started to see the spread of disease as well, and some of those diseases that animals can get can go to people as well. Some of the big ones are rabies, which most people have heard of, and another infection called leptospirosis, which can spread to people as well. So the getting control of the population is kind of twofold. One, to keep the animals out of the shelter, keep them from breeding, but also for public health purposes to keep these diseases under control.
Okay, and I know that you had gone down to Puerto Rico a few years ago, again, you know, looking at animal welfare and exploring as well some of the overpopulation issues. So what were your, takeaways from that?
Yeah, so I went down, it was November of 2016, and I spoke to, I think it was every actually animal welfare group on the island did come to this presentation. It was a 2-day presentation, and I focused on open adoptions and how to increase adoptions by removing barriers. You know, we find that the shelters in many parts of the country have lots of animals in them, and there's things that within the shelter you can change to have those animals move quicker. And really, it's about being kind of more open with the public and trusting them more and allowing them to adopt, because the shelters, you know, have a certain capacity. And when they get full, you get overcrowded situations. It's not good for anyone, especially the animals in those situations. So it was really great being able to speak to that group. And, you know, they have a lot of challenges that we, especially here in the Northeast, don't have. One thing that happens here in our winters is kittens don't give birth all winter long. You know, cats aren't having litter after litter because of the weather. You know, in Puerto Rico and other warm environments, they don't have the luxury of that happening. So there's no natural buffer to keep that population in check. And that's one of their big challenges as well.
So this must have been pretty cool, though, for Dakin to have Dr. Therrien represent in Puerto Rico and do this important work, I would assume.
It was great. I mean, she is an amazingly skilled surgeon. She probably won't say that, so I'm going to say it for her. Really, I mean, does so much every day at Dakin, spays and neuters. You know, she could do them with her eyes closed, which she wouldn't do because that would be bad practice. Right. But she's just really, to have that level of skill and to be able to take that in a place that really, really needs it. You know, I really, it was so great that she was able to do that and take that on.
What was the response that you got from families and people who brought their pets?
They were really appreciative to have this opportunity. We did 500 animals a day, and unfortunately we had to turn away animals. People would be lining up, some even the night before or in the middle of the night, just to make sure they got one of the wristbands that qualified them for that day's surgery. But we could only take 500 a day, and we still couldn't meet the need. But people were so happy. People walked with their animals, biked with their animals just to get there and to get in line. The surgery was free. They got vaccines. They were given food, toys for their animals, and they were just so grateful to get the help. Everyone I met was just very nice and very helpful, from the people that provided us lunch to people who were just volunteering and helping out any way they could.
And I know that you went with a local group, and I know the Humane Society has the 18-month plan, you know, to continue this. How important is this, you know, to keep on people's minds that this is still a big issue, you know, after this hurricane, which was more than a year ago now?
I think it's very important, that this is still happening down there. They are struggling. If we can assist, we absolutely should be, and we're glad to do so.
Okay. And do you plan to go back?
I think whether it will be there or somewhere else, I do hope to do another trip. There's places in Puerto Rico, in the Caribbean, even out west in the United States that need help. So I would love to do another trip. There's only one more in Puerto Rico that I know of, which is May. So unless they extend it longer than that, if they do, I might go back there. If not, probably somewhere else.
How important is this service, even for families here in the United States, to have this done for their pets?
It's extremely important not only for the animal's health, for overpopulation, all those things, but I think one of the key points for people to remember is I think there's a misconception that people don't want to spay and neuter, but it's really what we've found is really it's access to it and make it affordable for people, accessible, and when you do, people will come and will actually have that done for their animal, and they are so appreciative, and we see it every single day at Dakin, is that when you make those accessible and affordable, it does break down those barriers, and that's really our goal, is to make sure people have access to that.
Okay, and was there anything in particular that inspired you to go on this trip?
I had always wanted to do one of these trips, and I think what made me key in on Puerto Rico was actually a friend that used to work at Dakin, who is from there, and he would talk about it all the time. A lot of his family is still down there, and just the difference between the animal overpopulation down there and up here, and I think it just made it a little more personable for me that I wanted to go there in particular. And when they finally were allowing some outside veterinarians and groups to come in and help with this, I knew I wanted to do that.
Do you have any new initiatives that you have here at home at Dakin coming up in the next few months?
Well, some of the things we're doing at Dakin that I think most people associate us with a place to adopt an animal or a place that if you can no longer care for your animal, and we of course always have those services, but we've really been focusing on how to keep people and pets together. One thing is our pet food aid program. So that is a program where people, if they aren't able to afford that food for their pet, they can actually come to Dakin. We work with several partners throughout the Pioneer Valley where people can get that support in that program. So we really are shifting and focusing on how do we keep people and pets together, and can we avoid the shelter altogether.